I want to say greetings in the best of salutations. That will be prayer, power, peace, patience, and prosperity. I would like to say with a prayer, bless that the light of the knowledge surrounds me. The light of the knowledge is in me. The light of the knowledge shines through me. I am the light of that knowledge. Today's topic of expression. Reason why I call it expression, because everybody have need of self-expression. The clothes that we wear, the cars that we drive, in the places we live. It seemed to offer a sense of an opportunity to be able to express appreciation. Appreciation. My personal core values is opportunity, expression, and appreciation. There are 8 things that follow me wherever I go. Problems, questions, issues, and needs, values, views, virtues, and vices. Following is an exemplary act. It's something that has been set. Now some can look at the word set as a sense of settling down. You can use the word a settlement, where you come to an agreement. And then some can look at it in a sense of a struggle. A struggle in settling down, finding a place of refuge and rest. Whether we know it or not, this creation is a place of rest. Yes, it's a place of rest. What we call the sky is the roof. And we are all one humanity under one roof. I believe it was Ivan Van Sertima, a scholar, who said that we all occupy the same time and space and consciousness. I believe it was Imam Muhammad Muhammad that says that we all created with, paraphrasing it, we all are created with faculties and consciousness. It's just the difference is the manner in which we use it. Differences. Chinga Diop says that which distinguishes, and he was applying it to humans, is climatic, cold environment, warm environment. Yes. So one must be able to overcome indifferences / differences. Indifferences / differences. Indifference is associated or meaning lacking importance or significance. It deals with the principle of self-acceptance. And we must be able to accept our uniqueness. Each leaf blade of grass is different. If a person doesn't appreciate and accept him or herself, they end up degrading and devaluing themselves by participating in foolish behaviors and self-destructive activities toward their own demise. That's coming from a book called You Can Make a Difference. The working lessons and teachings of Common Humanity Mission Incorporated, the Human Restoration Project. Welcome to what I call Thorough Thursday, Thorough Thor, the Jehuti. The way of words, because we are living in a word oppressive environment. Language makes us as we are. It is said in the English Bible, I come to make the crooked places straight. It's one aspect of it, and the rough places smooth. Crooked is like perverted language where people misappropriately use knowledge, and they tend to sell the people cheap. It's called falsehood, where they give the impression to know more than what they're giving off, and they pretend to be something that they're not, and then therefore one become very presumptuous and very pretentious. Presumptuous person will always like to exaggerate. Yes, always like to exaggerate and to elaborately construct him or herself. Yes. It's a human tendency. And become very pretentious, pretend to be something that he or she not. Now, just want to deal with really substance abuse, misuse, and use. Not in any stigmatization. I am no clinician. This is non-clinical. I operate as a social health engineer, countering what has constructively to work against the best of my human development. I advocate no religious philosophy or ideology. The only thing I promote is the value of self-worth. Worth is in the degree, but the value is unlimited. And I promote what is called as I promote the value of self-worth, that's the mission, while simultaneously pushing the maturation process. And the maturation process consists of understanding, tolerance, temperance / temperament, confidence, and respect. Now, there is end results. Out of understanding comes consciousness. When you have balance, understanding speaks clearly. So it's balance. But the understanding is to restore social credibility. And the tolerance is to readdress social diversity. The temperance / temperament, which is the bridge or the dichotomy, what we want to use, that connect to the previous two and to the last two. The temperance connect to the tolerance and understanding, and the temperament connects to the confidence and respect. But the temperance / temperament is almost like associated with the yin and the yang, because it deals with the attitudes, but it is designed to revive social coherency. Be very coherent. Yes. A whole. The whole you. Now, in the confidence is to replenish the social continuity. Social continuity. And then the respect is to reclaim social solidarity. Because when your solidarity is organized, anything that comes up against you will proceed coming at you with caution. Now I approach each differently, or I approach them one progressively, universally, holistically, comprehensively, and conscientiously. Anything that I do, that's how I approach. Anything. I call it a 5-star approach. I realize that there are 4 things that we face every day. Some would dispute that: problems, questions, issues, and needs. Problems are designed to be solved, issues resolved, needs met, and questions answered. So what is the problem? The problem is not the problem, it's the attitude that you have about the problem is the problem. So it's attitude, huh? Yes. And I think, as Einstein said, the same level of consciousness that created the problem won't solve the problem. Yes. The problem is the identity crisis. The issue is character resolved, because the material that's been given us to build on our humanity is character. I believe that was Imam Muhammad said that. You look at the word issue, is you, because no one will not change if they don't see an issue with their action. So now we're talking about perception and perspectives now, you see. Yes. And then the answer to the question of governance, how we govern our affairs on a daily basis, and the need is for spiritual guidance. Anything that remains in its natural form and natural state is spiritual. Yes, yes. Now, I want to look at the word substance in its origin, sense of the word, if I may use it, because I want to get to a point where that what people have this when it comes to substance use, misuse, and abuse, is that what people have affection for. I have concluded, don't mean that it's so, 2 types of highs. 2 types of high. One is the high of efficacy, and the other high is one of affinity. Yes. And the affinity high is something that is spontaneous or natural, or something that you have sympathy for someone or something, and that is associated in a manner way in which you have established some type of rapport with that, with that individual, or with that high. Now, I realize that our true purpose is to move from sympathy to empathy. Many get stuck in that transition, so therefore we become what is called apathetic. So we're dealing with an apathetic spirit. So, but in that affinity high, says a similarity of characteristics, which means that people who have this affinity for doing things spontaneously, something natural, without, I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but, I think for the most part, maybe something needs to be, it takes on a form of that which needs to be organized instead of doing something spontaneous. I think that unless it's associated with consciousness, because I know Kwame Ture says that the duty of the conscious is to make the unconscious aware of the unconscious behavior, which means anything that they do must be organized. And Marcus Garvey, a brother who came from Jamaica, says that organizing is the key. But you can have many organizations, but you lack cooperation. That's why I come to learn to know, and I concluded that adequate cooperation leads to proper communication, and that's how you effectively coordinate your power. So let's talk about being effective now. Yes, being effective. Yes. but suggestions, a relationship, what type of relationship that we have with the hive of affinity, the affinity of hive, or the hive of affinity. And how we identify, when I say identity crisis, and that which is a resemblance, that which can resemble in how, in a manner and way in which this universe is structured, because at the end of the day, it determines how we structure and govern our lives. Yes, think about that. Yes, this affinity, this hive for that. Yes. And then we interact with other people and how they structure and govern their lives. Yeah, we do. Yes. So, and this is how we somewhat form relationships. We can look at, and this is humans, because humans used to look at, and they still do possibly, look at the stars, the moon, and see how they interact with one another and how they govern themselves. Then you look at plant life. You know what I'm saying? You look at how the beehive or the bee nest is at the right temperature. Yes. So we're still dealing with the temperament, the substance use, misuse, and abuse. Yes. And then we look at language. So it is associated with dialectical therapy. Let's look at dialectical therapy and see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about dialectical therapy. Let's see. I think it's something that we need to look at. If I could, locate it and find it, because I think it's necessary for us to look at it, because it is through dialogue. Because I realize that we need to learn from the premise of conversation. And we look at the African continent, it's the dialects, different dialects. We need to reason from the premise of conversation and reason with progression rather than regression, because there's two struggles for me: nonsense versus common sense, and progression versus regression. Humans are very inspired people. We all have feelings. I think in manner of way we're going to be judged, in manner of way which we react to those feelings. And feelings and human emotions and feelings. I always like to say feelings are something outside that which you touch, and human emotions are something that is inside. But it deals with this dialectical therapy. It says acceptance and change. Acceptance and change. It says acceptance, mindfulness. Be aware of the present moment without judgment. Distress, tolerance, a distressing call, or distress tolerance. Managing a crisis without worsening the situation, accepting the reality as it is. So this is situational now. It's situational. So we're talking about situational learning. Yes, situational learning. Because we are born in a condition, placed in a situation, surrounded by circumstances, consequently due to a previous activity that's taken place. So when I'm talking about substance use, misuse, and abuse, I'm talking about situational learning. Yes. Change, emotional regulation, understanding and reducing vulnerability to emotions, changing emotions, and then interpersonal effectiveness, getting the needs met, maintaining relationships, increasing self-respect in relationships. Yes. Emotional regulation. Yes, because we can be too emotional and less logical. The logic and emotion have to have the balance. Yes, so when we're dealing with situational learning, I said earlier we deal with problems, questions, issues, and needs. Now we deal with one of the keys to success. We're born in a condition, placed in a situation. Now we're dealing with the answer to the question. We're answering the question right now when it comes to substance use, misuse, and abuse. When we talk about two highs, one of affinity and one of efficacy, we're talking about answering the question. And remember, intentions is judged by your action when associated with situational learning, because it is indicators and directives by way of one's virtue by properly becoming reacquainted with ourselves by way of virtue. So there is a Greek term, if I may use it, called the parakesis, associated parakil or associated with a parable. Imam Muhammad would say that parables are designed to check one's nature. So the thing is that it says that it is dealing with really redemptive power. Redemptive power leads you in a direction toward virtue. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So now we just talked about when it comes to substance abuse, misuse, and abuse. We're going to talk about the two highs of the affection for affinity high and efficacy. Efficacy is the ability to produce a desired intended result. Now we're dealing with the cause and effect. And this is how people status data, and they do a litmus test to see how you respond or react, because you're being tested. You know, chemists say that the drug is all right long as in the bottle, long as in the container. The problem is when it's injected into something, a living organism. Yes, when it's injected into something. So a desired intent result, a desired intended result. Efficacy. Now, substance itself. Let's try to look at the word substance because it has something to do. We see the word sub in there. Like it could be a supplement or something that is below. Something that is below. Or something that could be something that is designed to maybe uplift or to substantiate something. Think about it now. Below. It says what is above should be done what? Should be done below. Now, we talk about, I realize that people can agree on the surface, but beneath the surface, we are at odds with one another. Yes. Yes. So what is going on beyond the surface, beneath the surface? You know, we've been trained to look at things at face value rather than the cause and the symptoms, because there is something deeper that is going on. And we talk about a substance, we're really talking about denoting that which is essential, and that which is essential, we're dealing with one's human essence. Human essence. It is the sense of the highest degree of one's human essence. Yes, once we tap into the essence of who we are as human beings in the highest degree of learning when it comes to the situation that which we are in, then we know we can make the proper decision. But yet first, we must come to this understanding, know the importance of this use of substance, that we won't abuse nor misuse the substance called life. Yes. Because if we don't understand that, and if we're dealing with identity crisis, then we become more prone and susceptible to violence. That means we're suffering in rage and silence. We're suffering in silence, and rage is a precursor toward violence. Yes. I'm not talking, we have to stop dealing. See, we're dealing with people talk about the effects, but don't want to get to the causal root. So, as I look at this here now, from the book, and what I'm going to do is use this as a manner and a means and a way to extract what is said here when it talks about factors that affect a drug's effects. Yes. It says, drug effects can best be understood. Effects, the results. Trial and error lead to personal discovery. And when you understand something, out of understanding comes what? Consciousness, as the results of complex what? Interactions. So, we're still learning how to interact and get along with one another. Complex. So now we're dealing with a personality complex. We can become image conscious. When we're dealing with drugs, we talk about the physiological and the psychological impact, or as it pertains to what image someone is trying to project based upon how a person uses substance. Huh? Yes. Yes, yes. How he used his faculties. How he or she uses his limbs. Huh? Perception and perspective. Yeah. Because that which has been given to us is the ability to learn how to reason one with another. Yes, reason. The results of complex interaction. So we have to work on what? Our interpersonal skills. Our interaction skills. Yes. Among, he says, 4 groups of variables. Characteristics of the substance. The characteristics of what makes who you are. Itself. B. The physiological function of the user. I just spoke about that. And the psychological state of the user. Now, remember, intention is judged by your what? By your actions, man. And the social cultural environment, motivation environment in which the drug is what? Is used. And now we see how people bind and come together, and they have affinity for that high, and they have affinity for that high. Affection for the affinity of that high. They have affection for the efficacy of the high. Yes. And then therefore they what? They bind together, and it can become a compound. Anytime something can become the compound of elements coming together or chemicals coming together, and you got the wrong chemical mix together, more than likely you're going to have a what? An explosion. So what does that mean? Some things and some people, man, there's a strong possibility that we should not be interacting one with another. Unless we come in to give each other or add to, as Neil Fuller would say, give each other constructive value in any gathering. But yes, we're coming together to continue to add value. That's a book that's out called by Edward Blyton, I think, Christianity, Islam, I forgot the title of the name of the book, but I really did. But he's talking about how what we call the Africans, how that Islam, he said that Islam didn't give the Africans value. They already had value. The Africans gave value to Islam. Yes. And that's why I say I promote the value of self-worth. Because as Dr. Guru talks about a low self-esteem or vacant esteem, there will be no need of low self-esteem, and we hold each other in high esteem. And esteem is just an estimation. The self is the soul that is in us all. This is an investment, man. The soul is an investment in this human body. It's investment because it's been time and energy. It's time and energy that's in the Bible. So that's why I say that the task must be synchronized, and the effort must be synthesized, and the time must be economized, and the energy must be synergized, and the nature must be syncretized, or it is about syncretism, which means reverence all life forms. Reverence us all. Reverence. So that's why I'm an advocate for reverential treatment. Yeah. But let's look at this here now. As we see with these, the factors that impact a drug's effect. It says they discuss each of these groups. They're going to discuss individually as much as I can. The characteristics of the drug. It says a drug is any substance that alters. Remember I said earlier about it talks about how things are structured, characteristics of the substance itself, and how things are structured. Because I realize that, man, what I'm trying to learn to do is to continue to be at best in structuring my consciousness. That's all. So the structure or function. Now we look at a structure, we look at how things are governed, how things are controlled, how things are governed, how things are controlled. That means you can give someone a drug and control the environment or control the effect of the drug, do your best to control the user of the drug. If you look at media, press, and television, and you look at sensationalism, and you look at all what's going on and transpiring, it's almost like a dosage of a drug. And then when you get too much of it, you become overdosed. And when you become overdosed, you may become a lone wolf. And when you become a lone wolf, you would take unnecessarily the life of others because you have not been able to process your human emotions. Oh man, this is serious in the society in which we live. So now we're dealing with how things are function, the characteristics of the substance. I'm talking about the substance of essence, the substance of one's essence. Yes. Then you deal with the physiological function of the user, the psychological state of the user, and the social culture environment in which the drug is used. A volatile, hostile environment. When people use terms like superior, inferior, people use terms like race, class, gender, and religion. All of these things, man, create an environment that is very at odds and hostile. When we use term black and white, it's always like confrontational. And then you have people who call representatives of lawyers. They play that same game. So what is really being done? It's just like a game, man. Somebody's playing mind games on people, man. If you allow someone to continue to play mind games, that's a shame. That's a shame. That people still dealing with the effects. And this is, in fact about it, they're getting the attention. They're making money off of it. Huh? They become what? They have this affinity for it. The affection for the affinity of the high. Yes. The drug and the substance alter the structure, function, and some aspect of the user. Such a definition is wide-ranging. Meyer and Quinzer stated this 2013. We talk about conceivability now. Conceivability. It includes not only abused drugs, but also antibiotics, antitoxins, and vitamins and minerals, and even water and air. It's a matter of way in which we use the thing. He says that water and air and food are considered to be essential to the survival of an organism. I stated earlier, but to me, life is like a living organism. Even though we use the word survival, that's fine. I necessarily don't approve of that word, but I understand. Hey, if I don't approve of it, then doesn't mean that it's wrong. Because, I think humans should live. It's almost like basing things on that which is very I just use the word animalistic, not downplaying animals per se. But and not conceived of drugs. However, consider the use of what? Oxygen. Talk about something that can what? Revitalize a fatigued athlete. And at one time when people were at war, and I think World War I or World War II, when somebody gave this group of people some speed or some cocaine to keep them woke in battle. But it's the intention and manner way in which people use a thing. That's the problem. Spices and additives and blood pressure and cardiac function with retention. Now we're talking about retention now. One's attention span. Allergic reactions. Similarity through vitamins. Yes, it is good that the best vitamin that one can have is gratitude. Yes, the best vitamin one can have is gratitude. But minerals in reaction through a nutritional supplements that can produce toxic reactions. In altercations and physiological moments in time. I'm lost with that one there. But we're dealing with toxic reactions. And when it comes to physiological structure and function, yes. On a different level, numerous drugs used to restore and maintain health, generally not considered to be abusable. So, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be on my way to a close. Because for me, the first component of the maturation process of understanding is to restore social credibility. That means we become a more credible human being. And we have to realize that intentions is judged by way of your actions, but at the same time, you could think a thing and don't do it, but yet, even though your intentions may be good, it may not be received as good. So that caused me to rethink that when I said intentions are not judged but by your actions. And I'm going to sum it up again by the drug dosage, how much is interjected or how much is used and how frequently that you use it, and how you develop a relationship with that in which you use it. When it comes to substance use, substance use, abuse, and misuse, and you know that one has a tolerant level because that is considered to be a threshold, and then we have to deal with the effects of it. Something is called a desired effect of a drug, or the reason it's used is the therapeutic effect. Then you have the adverse effect, and you have the what? The allergic, allergic effect. And then you have the idiosyncrasies or idiosyncratic reactions to it, as it pertains to the toxic effect. Then we're dealing with something that is considered to be either reliable or unreliable. And then you deal with the lethal and non-lethal doses of a drug, which could be referred to something that is a overdose. And then we deal with the potency or the amount of the drug necessary to produce a certain desired effect. Remember the affection for efficacy and the effects for the affinity of a particular high, how a person wants to feel. It says here, the potency of the drug is determined by two factors. As I stated earlier, the affinity and the efficacy. Affinity refers to the drug ability to attach itself to. The source of all conflict is attachment. It's an Eastern philosophy. And how we attach to certain things, or bind with a perceptor, a binding with a perception, how we want to physiologically, psychologically project a particular image about ourselves. Yes. Or site of action, and it deals with, they talk about receptors. When I think of receptors, I'm trying to make it relevant to where we are. I'm talking about how things are being received. And then how it could interact or affect these medical terms called the membrane. Now, efficacy refers to the stimulator, something that is designed to stimulate the power of the drug of the receptor. Drugs with high efficacy strongly stimulate receptors. To have an effect, a drug must have both affinity and efficacy. And the higher the affinity and the efficacy, the more potent the drug, the most potent the drug is. Now, in closing, talks about the therapeutic ratio of safety and margin. I'm just paraphrasing and taking as much as I can to share this. When you deal with drugs, because I say drugs is the major competitor. You have to deal with, you're dealing with public safety, and you're dealing with public safety, you're dealing with what, Food and Drug Administration. And then when you're dealing with the regulation of drugs, the control of it, you deal with the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, at least in what they call the United States. And then you have to look at what is called the Central Intelligence Agency as well. So what did I say then? I mean, you have to look to the root cause, even though the individual makes the decision. But remember, it deals with back to the factors that affect the drug effects. You look at these variables among 4 groups: characteristics of the substance itself, the physiological functioning of the user, the psychological state of the user, and the social cultural environment in which the drug is used, something that is put right in the environment. But the therapeutic ratio safety margin, the therapeutic ratio or safety margin refers to the relationship between the lethal dose and the effective dose of the drug. The effective dose, ED, refers to the dose required to produce a particular effect in a certain proportion of the population. For example, ED 50 refers to the effective dose for 50% of the population to control a percentage of the population. And naturally, when humans come out of that, because they're naturally trying to fight and resist being controlled. You can teach other people languages, but you can't. Al Manzur says you can teach people other languages, but you can't teach them how to govern, that they must learn for themselves. Control that which is popular. Something or someone can control that which determines what is popular. And people will bind and come together because it is popular to do so. So it is for the safety, not of the people, the masses of the people, but the one who's perpetuating and promoting the misuse and abuse of any substance, whether it be the misuse of knowledge, the misuse of your limbs, your faculties, or what have you. The lethal dose, LD, refers to the dose required to kill a particular proportion or to kill the thinking of, or a mindset of a particular people. Again, this is generally specified, LD 50 or lethal dose, referring to the lethal dose for 50% of the population. The ratio of lethal dose to the effective dose allows us to compare the relative safety of various drugs and gives us, this is what the writer says, some sense of safety. Then you deal with the pharmaceutical. People maybe take more medication than they do street drugs. But a particular dose of a thing. This relationship is known as a therapeutic ratio or safety margin of a drug, because the lethal dose for some psychoactive or psychoactive drugs is not well established. And that what needs to be established is one's redemptive power to redeem him or herself. And that you can tell because it leads to virtue. Of a drug, because the lethal dose for some psychoactive drugs is not well established. We cannot reliably compute a therapeutic ratio for those drugs. That which needs to be established is the human person. Going beyond race, going beyond class, going beyond gender, going beyond economics, going beyond politics, going beyond education, just going beyond. Because that which needs to be restored is social credibility. That which needs to be readdressed is social diversity. And that which needs to be revised is social coherency. That which needs to be replenished is social continuity. And that which needs to be reclaimed is social solidarity. Common Humanity Mission, promoters of the value of self-worth, that's the mission. The mandate is to cultivate the potential of knowledge that is in us all. And the motto is to communicate with precision a clear image to the world through 5.5 channels of communication: understanding, tolerance, temperament, confidence, and respect. Dealing with one's feelings, emotions, thoughts, attitude, language, and activity. SeeHumanity.org, Cash App, CH Mission, CH Mission, but SeeHumanity.org. At the end of the day, may we all become practitioners of social maturity. Until next time, Reverend Martin McKevin teaches of teachers and preachers of preachers when it comes to reverence from the heart. Talk to you. Oh yeah, by the way, this is Thorough Thursday. This is about the human integrity, dignity, benevolent restoration project. The human integrity, dignity, benevolent restoration project. Talk to you. Or once again, you can go to SeeHumanity.org or SeeHumanity.org. Thanks. appreciate you.